Hey guys, so I want to take the time to go over the MRK trade that I posted in the Skool community or in my Skool community at the beginning of November. This was about 21, 22 days ago. And this has been a really amazing trade. Now, when I shared this one in the trade plan, the charting for it, it was sitting at $82. And as of today, MRK closed out at 105.30. Now, this thing has been on the up and up. And there were a few times in the Skool community that I posted that I was about to close the trade out. But I want to kind of look at, and if you're not in the Skool community, then this little part would be mostly for those who are, where I was going to close out the trade. And then I was like, you know what? Every time I look back at the charts, and usually when you're looking at the charts, it's letting you know, hey, it may be time to exit this trade. We're getting to a certain point, but I had a number of levels. But then I kind of came and went to a lower time frame just to kind of get a fresher look at some things before I officially made my move. Now, I had multiple contracts on this trade. The last 5 contracts that I just closed out was on today, and I'm going to go to the charts and show you guys why I decided to go ahead and come out, and then of course begin to look for another opportunity there where it presents itself. So if you do not know, Eli Lilly just hit the $1 trillion market cap space. All right, this is normally reserved for the big boys, which are in tech, which is Google, Apple, Amazon, Mag 7 for the most part. Eli Lilly is the first pharma company to actually hit that, and I feel like a lot of that impact from that news has kind of been pouring into other pharma companies, and MRK is one of those ones that's been on my radar for a while. And it was one of those ones that I said, okay, if you cannot afford Eli Lilly, which is $800, but probably at the time that I first came across that one, it was about $600-700. I said, let's look at this one. Let's kind of keep this one on our radar. And so this thing has been moving, and we've been getting some news on this one as well. So I want to go to the charts over on MRK, and I want to kind of look at some things, and I want you guys to really get an understanding of how understanding something as simple as breaking retest or retesting lower levels before you make a move on something, right? You can see something shoot up. You can see this massive momentum may come out of nowhere, but it takes a little bit of patience to let that thing come back and retest. If you're not familiar with like the fair value gap, or you may see it as FVG, this is just something that just say, hey, it may not be a actual gap where there's no price action there, but it's a massive candle there of momentum to the upside or downside. It is a high chance that they're going to come back, fill out all of that space, get a little bit more action there, retest where the breakout or where that momentum took place at, and then we begin to kind of push up. And if you look at MRK on their hourly time frame, they were doing this consistently, and there was an opportunity on MRK that I shared with someone. I said, if it opens up and it retests back at that 100, that would be the perfect place for you to get into your trade today and ride it up to that resistance that I shared some time ago. And it officially kind of hit up there. And so this is what I want you guys to kind of pay attention to. When these retests happen, or how to spot them, so that you'll see them coming and you'll know when to kind of make your move. Now, this is on the hourly time frame on MRK. The first thing I want you to just simply know is this, and you do not have to overthink it. A lot of times it just takes a little bit waiting for this whole thing to really just make its move and get that to a level where there's enough confidence that you're making a great move or entry to ride up or down. Okay, so you guys notice here at 97. Now, keep in mind, like I said, this thing was $82 when I first made my move on this trade, and I've been selling contracts. When we pulled back, I was averaging down and kind of was adding more to it, and finally closed that trade out officially on today. Okay, now, we right here, now let me bring this down. This is my 200 and my 50 EMA. Now this is on the hourly time frame. A lot of times I'm not fully looking at my 50 and my 200 on the hourly. I may have anything between my 20 and my 50. Okay. Usually it just depends, but I'm going to take these off because I want to clear this thing off as much as possible for you guys to really be able to see the simple reading of just the candlesticks, right? First thing I want you guys to know, at 97.59, we're on the hourly time frame. We had this here. where the price pushed up. Okay, now you see this big long candle? When nothing else was here, this would have been looked at as a fair value gap. Meaning this thing just went from here, it ran all the way up here, and there was no action in between that. Kind of how you see these small candles up and down, up and down. That right there, what you will look at as a fair value gap. And a lot of times when that happens, the price will come back down and retest a lower level to kind of get some action here before they make their next move to the upside. But you'll notice when we got up here, it was acting as a resistance. Now, it may not have touched 97.59 exactly. But if you look at this little area, 97.04, it came up a little bit more, 97.25, right up in there. But that final little rejection was kind of in this area here, and then it pushed back down and came back to retest. And you will kind of notice where they may have been trying to go back and retest, right? Where the open of this momentum candle here took place. And this right here, look at the volume here, and that nicked up in this candle. Right at the bottom of that, this thing came back, retested, held up, and we began to push back higher. This is where we broke. Now, most of you would look at this and say, man, I missed it, or this thing's running up, let me jump in. You never jumped in yet. Listen, even though you get a break from like an older resistance level, you can still wait for a retest because it's inevitable to happen. We broke, and look what happens. Once something breaks a resistance, it becomes a support. And when this thing pushed up, it came back to retest around this area and may not always hit to a T, but it'll always come back. The low here was 97.70. This here is 97.59. It's not exactly, but hey, it's close enough. It came back down. Look what happened. It runs back up. Now, you may say again, I missed the mark. It came here. I did make a move. Now we're way up here at 102 from 97. Check this out. Everything will be a rinse and repeat opportunity. I'm going to put another horizontal line here, right? We went up, rejected, we came back down, retested, we broke this level from where that older rejection was. Come here, I'm going to put a line there, and look what happens. We push up, we came back, and we retest that same level. This will have been your entry point to ride up this morning. And this is exactly what I explained to a student this morning. I said, when we get that down there, when the market opens, you have the opportunity to make your move here. And we came here, and this thing went all the way up to 105 at closing. Now, this is giving you the same potential opportunity again come tomorrow. You guys see where we had this little rejection here? And then you see where we got this large breakout candle, this momentum here, and this thing pushed all the way back up. One or two things are going to happen on tomorrow, okay? It's going to push up. We already pushed up, rather. It's going to either come back. It's going to retest 102 in this area. This is actually what I'm kind of counting on, is to come back to 102 and potentially push back up and retest 105 again. Rinse and repeat. Or you guys see at the top of this candle that we have here, it's going to push up depending on where this thing go, or it may open back at around 103.76, somewhere along those lines. And when you just kind of look at it as stairs, right? We come right to this level here. We pushed up here, we retested. We pushed back up, we got a breakout. May have missed it, that's fine. We retested again. Retest here, breakout, same thing. And we can kind of expect the same things to happen. Now, when I made my move to exit my trade on today, I was looking at a few things. When I got out of my trade, the RSI was sitting at 72, meaning that MRK is extremely overbought right now. And this is on the hourly that I'm looking at it, but I kind of went across the board a little bit. And if you go to the daily, this thing is sitting at 83. And when something is extremely overbought, that's just basically saying the sellers are likely going to start stepping in, and they're going to start to bring this thing back down. And we will have this opportunity to rinse and repeat on this trade again, okay? But overall, the RSI is a overbought and oversold indicator. So when I saw that, I said, okay, I've been holding on to this thing. I've been adding contracts, but you know what? We finally pushed this thing all the way up to that 73 on that hourly and heavily on the daily at 83. And I said, I'm about to come out. out. So I went ahead and exited that trade, and I've been holding this thing for almost a month and selling some contracts, adding more, and just letting it go. So from $82 all the way up to $105 has been an amazing move from that trade on MRK. Okay, so the whole point of this video was to kind of show you guys, to kind of do an overview of this trade, but to also read the charts and let it tell you when is a good time for you to make a move, when is a good time for you to get out, considering this here shows it perfectly, okay? Using older support and resistance levels, using going further to the left on the charts. When we come back down here, right at around $91. You see how we had this rejection here, we came down. We pushed up, finally broke out. But even when we broke out, we still retested that same 91 level before we began to nick up. And you will see how this thing just kind of act as stairs. We pushed up, retest, pushed up, retest, and it just rinse and repeat. Now, it could get to a point where the main thing that I'm looking at, because we're sitting at 83 on the RSI on the daily time frame, and MRK is sitting at 105, I'm looking for this thing to come all the way back down and retest this $100 level before it begins to push higher. But we also got to kind of look at the news, because they have been getting a lot of drugs passed by the FDA, partnerships, as well as Eli Lilly's massive market cap hitting pharma. It can still begin to pour into this thing, but because we're sitting so high up on that RSI, I am definitely looking for a pullback. If we can get this thing to pull back far enough, get that RSI to at least hit 50, where we can kind of get to that little common area zone down there, then we can begin to push back up, possibly, but I'm still watching it. Now, right around at 105, we're going to see some heavy rejection in this area at 105, which was another reason why I decided to get out. Because if you go to the daily on MRK, and I'm going to bring this out some, I'm going to pull it over to show you exactly what I mean by some rejection. So let me take all of these lines off. And you guys notice right up in here, which was way back in December 2024, was the last time we was up this high. Okay, so I'm going to put a line right here. And we actually can bring it down just a little bit, actually. So I'm going to bring it down here. And let me come over to see what the exact number is. The highest level was 105.07. That's another reason why I decided to go ahead and get out of this trade, because I said we may have some rejection coming in. And this is why I picked 105 as my final target on this trade. And you can kind of see where we had some plays and touches on that 105 level way back in August 2023. Dropped down, came back up, played around this area again in December 2024, which is what I was looking at for the most part. So this is where we are now. So it will definitely, if you missed the run up to 105, then there could definitely be some opportunity here to kind of catch this thing to the downside, but I'm not going to be doing too much shorting on Eli Lilly. Maybe a shorter term play, simply because not Eli Lilly, MRK, but simply because I'm just kind of watching what other news could come out and impact this thing pushing back up, even if we do get a nice pullback. And also on their earnings that they had October 30th, they did beat earnings. Let's see, they beat it by 9%, and then their revenue was up 1.75%. So earnings, next one isn't until February, so we got plenty of time before we have to worry about earnings again. But that will also kind of play into this nice little run-up that we had here. So definitely want to continue to keep on your radar if you missed this trade that I put in the Skool community. But I wanted to really show you guys, just look to the left. Look for rinse and repeat opportunities, and look for break and retest, because this entire trade was pretty much, it was a lot of that taking place. And the main thing was right up in this little 90 area. And I knew that even though it was at 82, once we got over that $90 range, which is just from reading this here, this was way back, October, kind of had those plays around there, got back. Once we got over this point, the bulls would definitely be in control and pushing this thing up. And they did just that. So That's that. Okay. Go to the higher time frame, mark up your levels. And if you do decide to do something shorter term, just simply go to the lower time frames and adjust your levels so that if you do something short term, you have some short term levels and you have long term levels, but you base them on the highest time frame to give you a bigger picture. The bigger the picture, the better the trade. The better the entry, the better the profits, of course. Okay. The exits are, of course, are important, but the entries are everything, especially if you're going to be doing this thing on a longer term, a swing trade, or, holding it for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. But I had no intentions of holding this thing a couple of months. It was basically just a couple of weeks to let this thing ride out and just kind of let all of that pharma news kind of pour in. And with them beating earnings, as you guys can see, they've pretty much haven't missed earnings since, what was this, April 2021. So their earnings has always been on the up and up. They have been growing. There have been some where revenue has come down, but with something like MRK and pharma, you definitely want to look at the technicals as well as their fundamentals on the back end, and just to kind of see where this thing is growing. Is the growth steady, revenue, margins, all of that? What is their operating expenses? Because we can kind of see how things have been in this pharma space, especially with the uncertainty around Trump was imposing, I think, 100% tariffs on pharma, but they were put on pause. So that was a big thing that I had been kind of watching with any stocks in pharma that I own or any trades there, because of course they could have a huge impact. But some of that stuff has kind of died down just a little bit for now. It hasn't been pushed out, just simply paused. So just something additional to add to your radar while you potentially get into MRK. All right. So that's all I wanted to discuss. You guys can take what I've shown you guys and apply that to any stock that you are looking at. Breaking retest, looking for heavy levels to make a move on. Make sure you have enough time on your trade. Now, that's usually the major thing. You can be absolutely correct about your trade, but if you're not getting enough time on it to let it play out, a good trade can go to waste simply because it expired. All right. So with that, I will see you guys in the next one.